All right, some feedback time, AAA@twit.tv if you ever want to leave us an email. We love to get your emails. We've got a bunch here.
Yeah,
We'll see how many we can get through in a short period of time here. Dwight from Atlanta says, the new S8 looks amazing. As expected, I'm sure the next Note will be also. But seriously, guys, I think this Note 5 is going to be my last Android flagship device. I'm not saying I'm leaving the platform for good or will never own another Android phone. It's just I'm not going to depend on it as my daily driver anymore. I always get so excited about yearly OS announcements and all the cutting-edge features from Android OEMs, but I swear it never fails. I get the latest phone that I've been drooling over. Everything's great for 3 to 6 months, but by 9 months to a year, I'm ready to smash the thing because of the horrible performance and battery life. I'm tired of factory resets. I'm tired of constantly tweaking to optimize for battery life. I'm tired of seeing Android OS, Android system, and Google Play services sucking up 50% of my battery. I'm just tired. So he goes on to basically say he's going to test out the iPhone, of course. He's going to switch over. He says the divorce papers are signed. Android will always have a place in my heart, but she'll be more like a side chick for now, and iOS my main squeeze.
Android ain't no side chick. Hold on now.
So now, interesting. Nice. Oh, geez. Interesting timing for this email though, because I'm going to say something very uncharacteristic of me.
Okay.
In that, so I was standing in line for Peter Pan at Disneyland yesterday as I watched at about 4 o'clock as I watched my phone shut down because the battery was dead. And I didn't have my external battery on me. I left it at the hotel, and so essentially I was phoneless from 4 o'clock until about 9 or so when I finally went back to the hotel room to grab my charger. And I found myself for 5 hours turning to my girlfriend, going, "Oh, take a picture of that. Oh, can you send that to my sister? Look this up."
Sucks.
on her iPhone, and I was self-aware enough to realize that oh, here's the difference. I even asked her at that point when my battery died, I was like, what are you at? And she's like, 66%. And I was like, and in my head, I was like, this is, we still haven't solved this problem.
I will say I am very impressed when I see my pals with 3% on their iPhones and they're still texting. They're still doing everything. Yeah. I'm like, aren't you afraid? Don't you want to go to a charging station right now? And they're like, nah, I'll just use it until it dies. Just like, I don't understand you people. Don't you don't you want to plug it in? No. Because they've been using it all day and they just they know that they'll maybe get 15 minutes enough out of it. And that's okay.
It's like the Seinfeld episode where Kramer driving under the gas gauge under E just to see how far he can get,
Test driving that car.
But the thing is, and a lot of folks in the chat room are reminding me that the Nextbit Robin's battery isn't the greatest; it has problems. But I didn't, with the exception of the 6P, when I test drove that Jason, your 6P back in the day, remember that a couple years ago, that was the only time when I never worried about the battery. Every Android phone I've had up to this point.
Which is hilarious because Eric's is dying right now.
Sure.
Well, but that's kind of case in point, right? You get these devices right from the beginning, and they're the best devices in the world. And we all know that 6, 9, 12 months down the line, they are very different devices. If you were to review that on day one or, within the first week, month, as most people do when you read a review of a device. Sure. And if you were to review that device at a year, sometimes people do that, you get a very different experience. And what is the reason? Is that inherent in Android as an OS? Is that an inherent weakness in Android for a number of different reasons? Is that because of you've installed too many apps and that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes there? What
does that mean? I've installed too many apps, right? Because why should I have?
Why should that even matter? But apparently, that's been a reason that it has mattered in the past.
And I'm scared
maybe Android's moved on from that. But
I'm scared that's the status quo for people when they think of Android. They think of Android as it's amazing now. You brand new Samsung phone, but I know 3 months from now you're going to have battery problems and you're going to complain about it.
Right.
Well, what I think is even more interesting is Dwight's insight into this is someone who's been on Android, it sounds like, for years. Yeah. And
since
what
the
point
OG Droid, he says.
Right, since the OG Droid. So at what point, he is self-aware enough to realize that I keep having the same problem with every phone. Maybe the issue isn't the phone, maybe it's the OS. Yeah.
And that I think
And I think that's a really valid question, and it's something that they still haven't been able to lick. And I was having a conversation with some software development friends of mine, and not about Android, but just in general. But the discussion at hand was the old adage that never rewrite code. Like you build your basic code and you iterate, and make better and fix and things like that. But if the battery management issue lingers all the way back to old versions of Android, and it's still not fixed now, will it ever be fixed?
It's like putting different layers of paint on top just to keep covering.
Well, yeah, and I mean, they're saying what we know about the developer preview of Android O is that they are really trying to rein in background activity from apps. That is something that iOS has done really well. It's limited iOS's ability to multitask, and that's been a strength of Android, is that it's capable of multitasking. But there's a balance to be struck there in not letting apps just take over in the background, and you don't even it's not like that's doing you any favors when the phone's in your pocket, yet it's still taxing to the system. So who knows? We say it every time they have an Android update and they say there's battery improvements. Maybe this will be the one that makes the big difference. And they have been making differences. We'll see what happens.
No, baby. This time will be different. I promise. No, don't worry.
Well, I will say, like on my Pixel, the doze functionality, or doze on the go, I day and night between my Nexus 6P, my Nexus 6 I had. And
Doze definitely made a difference.
Doze for me makes a huge difference, and it is specific apps that I use that will draw the battery. Where in my wife's Pixel XL, hers will go all day, and all she's really doing is just Facebook and Instagram, and that's it.
Yeah.
Well, but the thing is that Doze helps in a scenario of your everyday kind of at home or at work or whatever, when you put the phone down, it's not being used, whatever. But in the scenario of being out, I don't know, Disneyland, or at a conference, or at a at a music festival, or at something where you're constantly your phone is your conduit to the to the schedule or to whatever's going on, or texting your friends trying to meet up and things like that. Like, Doze doesn't help in that point. Like, Doze is an iterative help and shows that they were able to address something, but it doesn't solve the problem.
But I won't say iOS, its battery is 100% better. I still see people on the side of, in Starbucks just charging their phone, and it's an iPhone, and it's a new iPhone, not an older one. So it's still out there. I think it's dependent on the user as well, too.
Absolutely, right.
Without a shadow of a doubt, it's on the user.
No matter how good the battery is, there will be a user out there that can push that battery to being
and it's
dead
the battery technology
because
too.
they use
it's lithium-ion battery. It's by this point in time, it's an archaic battery solution. So
we're in a science problem. Is that like all the technical innovation stuff like that, the cell phone stuff isn't going to fix the chemical makeup of lithium ion and how small they can get those batteries and all that sort of stuff. Like, we need a scientific breakthrough to solve at least
it ran on air.
I mean, even the guy who I think one of the guys who started using lithium-ion batteries, or discovered the charging possibilities of lithium-ion battery, he's actually going into a whole new study with other battery technologies that we could potentially use in the future.
Yeah.